Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about everything firearms related, politics, culture, media, movies, news, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment to like and share this program, which is, by the way, is brought to you by the Firearms Policy Coalition. If you haven't done so, please join the Firearms Policy Coalition. It's real easy to do. Just go to joinfpc.org. That's joinfpc.org. Also, remember to like and share this program. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already done so. Also, make sure you hit the notification button. Same thing with Facebook. If you're not already following us on Facebook, make sure you follow us and hit the notification button as well. Also, know that if you just want to listen to us, you can find us on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, a number of other different podcasts. So there's plenty of ways for you to get to Coffee with Craig, as well as help your friends connect with Coffee with Craig. Also, please remember to go to fpcgear.com, fpcgear.com. Christmas is coming up. It is a cool time to buy Pro Second Amendment gear for your best friends and favorite family members, knowing that every dollar that you spend will go right back into our fight to keep and bear arms. That's fpcgear.com. Support the Second Amendment. Look good doing it. All right. Now, this story, I got to be honest, it is, I am including this if probably for no other reason than the fact that, I find it interesting, tickling to say the least. You guys are familiar with Fast and Furious, are you not? Come on. I know you guys are familiar with Fast and Furious. In the event that you're not, here, let me just share with you just a real brief synopsis or video that'll kind of give you a synopsis of what Fast and Furious actually was and why it's so important to this story today.
In late 2009, ATF agents in Phoenix noticed a flurry of gun purchases in the United States by suspected traffickers from Mexican drug cartels, including giant .50 caliber rifles. But instead of stopping the weapons, agents say their superiors ordered them to let the guns cross the border. It's called gun walking, to see where they ended up and see if they would lead to a major drug cartel leader. Agents videotaped suspected dealers from Mexican drug cartels buying weapons. The case grew to include thousands of weapons. Then, in December 2010, 2 Fast and Furious rifles turned up at the murder of a Border Patrol agent in Arizona, Brian Terry. The Justice Department publicly insisted no gun walking had gone on. That denial prompted one of the lead agents on the case, John Dodson, to step forward and speak to CBS News.
Here I am. Tell me I didn't do the things that I did. Tell me you didn't order me to do the things that I did. Tell me it didn't happen. Now you have a name on it, you have a face to put with it. Here I am, someone now. Tell me it didn't happen.
Now, we all know. So in other words, the American government was allowing firearms to be sold to cartel leaders. They knew these firearms were going across the country. And the whole idea was they were going to track these firearms. And it turns out that literally thousands of these firearms came up missing. Needless to say, some of them were actually used against our own Border Patrol agents. It would be hilarious if it weren't so sad, because you had folks like Eric Holder who literally at all direction, at every turn, was lying about the existence of the program, what the program did, whether or not he knew anything about the program. All he knew was once he knew that it existed, well, now all of a sudden he was going to do something about it. It was really kind of sad. I mean, like I said, if it weren't for the fact that it was just so outrageous, then once again, these are the very same folks who, and Eric Holder being one of them, who pushed for more gun control. They couldn't, luckily, with the Republican Congress or with a somewhat, or at least a non-anti-gun Congress, they weren't successful in getting any of those measures. But they really did work and do the best that they could to try and restrict our right to keep and bear arms. That was almost one of the things that Eric Holder just flat out stood for in all that he said and all that he did. Now you're wondering, okay, so why is this important? Well, right now, the trial for El Chapo is taking place. For those of you who do not know who El Chapo is, let's just say he is, wow, one of the most notorious drug dealers there in, or drug traffickers there in Mexico. In fact, he was one who paid to have a tunnel go go into the United States so that he could escape from prison. Anyway, so he's now on trial. Anyway, here's the reason why that is so funny. Check out the story.
Tonight about El Chapo and what police found when they raided the drug lord's compound. They seized 11 guns total, 5 of which can be traced back to Arizona, and 1 has been linked to the botched Fast and Furious operation. Our own ABC 15 investigators helped expose this scandal years ago. Feds would let criminals buy guns so that they could then track them, but some of those guns got lost along the way, one of which was tied to the murder of a Border Patrol agent.
So now the feds are doing everything possible in the El Chapo trial to make sure that any discussion, any conversation about Fast and Furious doesn't come up during the trial. Now, we all know why El Chapo is bringing this up. Quite frankly, he wants to embarrass the American government. He wants to attempt to destroy their credibility by pointing out the fact that, well, it was the U.S. government that was supplying him arms. That's kind of what they're trying to do here. But once again, it goes to me. I find it tickling because here it is the American government not being willing to step up and say, yeah, we did it. We messed up. This is a messed up program. And, admittedly, this program existed before the Obama administration. I mean, I don't know of any of the firearms having come up being involved in or used in the murder of Americans or American officials. I don't know if there are any before the Obama administration. I just know that there were several instances of firearms that did come out during the Obama administration. Several instances where this did happen, which is why Fast and Furious, the most notorious gun running scheme in American history, was eventually shut down. But it goes back to, once again, government not wanting to be held accountable. And I believe that if anybody needs to be held accountable, it is the government. In particular, for those who are put in place in terms of enforcing the law, accountability is even more important because there's a lot of power. There's a lot of authority that is placed in their hands. And I think at every turn, we ought never forget when these folks make mistakes, not just when they make mistakes, but when they step outside the law in the guise of trying to, quote unquote, enforce the law. Because they're not given that right to do that. They're not supposed to do that. What they're supposed to do is enforce the law. They're supposed to stay within the bounds of the law while enforcing the law, while protecting the rights of all of us. Now, I know that's a balancing act that's really hard to do for law enforcement, and sometimes they're going to fail at it. Okay, I get that. But when you implement policies at the highest levels that are failures, that are going to violate the rights of Americans, that are bad, you know what? Or then you need to be held accountable for them. If you knew, then we need to know that you knew because you need to be held accountable. And if you didn't know, we need to know why you didn't know. And you need to be held accountable. And at the same time, if you're going to go after one of the world's or the Western Hemisphere's most notorious criminals, you have to know that all the rocks are going to be overturned and all the dirt is going to be put out there. And you need to be held accountable just like all the rest of us are held accountable in the media. Anyway, like I said, the main thing, I wanted to talk about this story today because it kind of tickled me. I think that as we're told to be held accountable as gun owners, perhaps the largest purveyor of firearms, the American government, ought to consider perhaps implementing the same due diligence for themselves. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of the fight for our civil rights. Remember, got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.